Monday, August 27th, 9 a.m. It's the Muscatine Board of Supervisors. Call the meeting to order. First is to review the agenda.
Move to approve as presented. Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Number 3, receive comments from the public. Is there anyone that would like to come forward and address the board? Seeing no one come forward. We'll go to number 4, discussion of possible action to approve claims dated August 27, 2018 in the amount of $516,190.22.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion by Jeff, second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. Number 5, public hearing on a request from Terry Holliday, record owner, and Sons of Silence Motorcycle Club of Eastern Iowa, contract purchaser by Clyde Gertz to rezone approximately 2.91 acres located in Fruitland Township from C1 Commercial District to R1 Residential District.
Okay,
So we're in a public hearing.
This property is located right off Old Highway 61, just southwest of the airport. If you're familiar with what was referred to as the old Thayer's Lodge area, the owners had previously petitioned to rezone the property from current C1 to C2. They had some interested buyers in the property if they could achieve that rezoning. That was unsuccessful, and they reapplied then a couple months later to rezone the property to R1 commercial, having found an interested party that would like to put a single-family residence on it. The zoning commission held a public hearing on that request and voted unanimously to recommend rezoning it from C1 to R1. It would be much more in harmony with the surrounding uses. If you're familiar with what they call the Old Thayer's Lodge subdivision, there's 15, 20 houses down there. It's predominantly residential use now. The neighbors that had been in opposition to the C2 rezoning request were in support of the R1, feeling that that would be in harmony with the surrounding uses. There just hasn't been, there would remain 1 or 2 parcels in the area that are still C1. We've just not seen a demand or real good scenario for commercial development in that area. So the zoning commission felt that it would be more appropriate to rezone to residential use. And it certainly has the size to accommodate a single family dwelling, septic, water supply, that type of thing.
So I guess the only question I really have is a general question, not this particular property, but how many times can a property be rezoned? Can you just pay flip-flop forever, or is there restrictions on that?
Well, there's no restrictions on applying for rezoning.
Yeah, just pay an application fee and
Yeah,
start all over?
and we would hold the public hearings at any request. I always try to advise the applicants when they're interested in a particular zoning district, how the comprehensive land use plan would steer the county in evaluating that request. And in this case, there's not a lot of good guidance from the comprehensive plan because it's within it's so close to existing city limits, and we're not taking it from agricultural to a more intensive. This was already commercial property years ago. There's just not been a market demand for commercial development in this particular site. It's pretty limited on what you could do commercially down there. But to answer your question in general, if someone wants to apply and insist on that, we would hold a public hearing and examine each request case by case.
What about levy differentials?
Excuse me?
Levy differentials for taxes, what about that? Is there any differential between the commercial and the?
Well, certainly, and I'm not well versed on.
That's changing.
On the tax assessment, but I'm sure there are some differences. But again,
Yeah, pretty significantly.
yeah.
So,
But if there's no commercial development interested or potential there, the commercial assessment's going to be pretty limited as well. Right. And so if it's just sitting vacant and we can get a brand new residential structure from a tax-based standpoint, it's probably advantageous. And certainly more in harmony with the surrounding uses. Way less chance for conflict with the residential area.
And you made mention the comprehensive plan, so that was reviewed. this is all within the.
Yeah, the comprehensive plan really steers us, when we look at rezonings, we really examine that closely when we're taking agricultural land or expanding development, whether it's residential or commercial or industrial. This has been rezoned from agricultural a long time ago. This is an area that is already residential. Now there's some ag not far away, more towards Burlington Road and the Bluff, but this area by and large is already residential. And so we would see this as a less intensive, a rezoning to a less intensive land use from commercial to residential.
Is this piece of property butt up against the slough?
To the rear, yes, I believe it does have some.
So right across the slough is
agricultural, yeah.
So that's a lot closer than Burlington, right?
Yeah, but it's pretty well divided because.
Right, so I know that there's several houses there, but I didn't know how big that lot was. Was there something between where this lot is?
I'll tell you that Thayer's Lodge situation or that ground there, that was there when I was born. That's been there a long time. Even though I'm a young fella, it's been there a long time.
I thought you were older than
Yeah. So, it is what it is. There's no new things here. I was just curious of future issues that might come before the board because this one has come up a couple of times.
Yeah, well, and there, I believe the party that has a conditional purchase offer is in attendance today. He's been working with our office what he needs for building permits, so I fully believe that as soon as this
Might
is
get done this time, huh?
he wants to pursue building a house there, so.
And to respond to Bob's point about taxes, it looks like right now, annual taxes are about $730, so we're not, we'll probably see an
Oh,
increase.
yeah, this poor fellow's gonna get nailed, sure.
I don't want to hear that, but.
I was teasing. We keep our taxes low.
So, and again, just to reiterate, we did not receive any opposition once the petition was made to residential. The neighbors were actually supportive. They contacted me.
Very good. Move to close the public hearing.
Motion by Bob, second by Matt. This is a roll call vote. Bob? Aye. Matt?
Aye.
Jeff? Aye. Nathan? Aye. And I vote aye. Motion passes, public hearing is closed. Next is discussion of possible action to approve an ordinance rezoning approximately 2.91 acres in Fruitland Township from a C1 commercial district to an R1 residential district on the first of three readings. I've got a motion by Nathan. Second by Jeff. This again is a roll call vote. Nathan? Aye. Jeff? Aye. Matt?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Number 6, discussion of possible action to approve a GTSB Section 402 State and Community Highway Safety Grant application in the amount of $45,400 with Captain Jeff Muller. Morning, Jeff.
Morning. This is slightly different than the GTSB we've been running. Money-wise, it's similar, but this one is a highway safety as opposed to alcohol-based as we had before. What it does is it opens up hours we can work more. Deputies are still getting paid the overtime. We receive $37,000 for overtime, which is roughly 744 hours overtime. We'll get 2 radar units, 2 PBT units, and 1 in-car video system. Other than that, it's the same as we've always done.
Motion by Jeff, second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Number 7, items with county engineer Keith White. Morning, Keith.
Good morning.
First is discussion of possible action to approve a contract bond and a certificate of insurance for LM18-1 73-70 2018 maintenance HMA overlay on various roads throughout the county.
Yes, we have a contract here with Ilwa Investment of Bluegrass, Iowa, in the amount of $2,015,742.27 for hot mix asphalt on various roads.
I'd move to approve.
Second.
I got a motion by Jeff, second by Matt. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Keith, the work on 22, that was all state, wasn't it?
Yes.
Heard some real stellar reports on the paving.
That's Illinois also. Yeah. Okay.
Anything else, Keith? Anything else?
As far as reports, I'll just start with the contract we just signed. You know, Iowa says 50, I'm not sure exactly what this means, but 50-50 chance that I think that any paving will occur this year on this contract we just signed. They have a completion date next year and a late start of May 1. So I think it depends on how they go on Highway 22. We had sort of expected to only do the mile up on hills, not the hills, the down in Blacktop. Was all we expected they might do, and I'm guessing that's now 50-50. Let's see, our Iron City culvert, and this is actually the one down there near the conservation area. We have a pre-construction meeting Wednesday the 29th. The late start date September 10th, and that's currently when Iowa Bridge thinks they might start on that. Our subdrain culvert repair project down on G28, which is Peterson Construction, their late start date is September 10th, and that's when they think they might start. I already told you Iowa 50-50 chance on the contract we just signed. The M18-2, which is Pelling seal coating, they've done some of the work. We do asphalt as a scratch coat to level up and strengthen some areas, and they're also talking September 10th to start on seal coating. We have M18-3, the contract with Vogel Traffic Services for pavement markings, and we think they'll be here next week. The late start date is the 4th, so that kind of makes sense. And then M18-5, those M's are maintenance, they're all maintenance contracts, which is the seal coat with Manats. We haven't heard anything out of them, so they don't seem to be in a hurry. And then we had maintenance work with Denco. The route and seal of cracks is complete, and the paver X, the surface treatment on 130th is complete, and Western, everything was complete except the portion of the southbound lane from Stockton to 120th. So hopefully they finish up today. So, and on one hand, there's a lot going on out there. Questions on that? Okay, that's all I have.
Very good. Thank you, Keith. Next up, discussion of possible action to approve the minutes of the August 20th, 2018 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bob, second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Correspondence. Bob, did you have anything?
Nothing.
Anything?
Do not.
I have nothing. Nothing. Matt?
No.
Committee reports, Matt.
No.
Nothing, Jeff?
Nothing to report.
Let's see, Wednesday, the 22nd, I had Bi-State, and there was a gentleman who gave a nice presentation about trails throughout the Bi-State area, and just a general overview of it that was fairly interesting. Also on Thursday, the 23rd, I had a fair board meeting, and they've got some numbers together from the fair. And obviously, if we remember the nice weather that we were fortunate enough to have this year, and the good participation by numerous people, they were able to have a net income of slightly over $37,000 on this year's fair. So that was pretty good news. And that's all I had. Nathan?
All I had was the mental health disability services meeting on Monday. Excuse me. Not a whole lot went on other than, for us, the important approval. I think you might have all seen the email from Kathy. Approval of our request to draw down funds, so we'll be getting a total of about $760,000 of our money back from the region. My guess is this is going to close the tap, that there's not going to be money to draw down in the future. If it is, it's not going to be a whole lot. So no one's getting anything close to their whole nut back, but it's better than what I think the position we've been in. And I think we're all committed to equity and actual equity in funding this thing.
Okay. Bob?
Yes, okay, on Monday, the 20th, I had county conservation, and in that meetings, we discussed the, well, first I'll send down the programs report. I always share with you guys on how the attendance was by those kids that come to the programs.
You were at Playtime?
Pardon?
You were at Polywog Playtime?
I haven't, yeah, I highlighted that, I wanted to get to that one, I didn't make it. So, that report is self-explanatory. There was also discussions on the cabins. The quote that come back on the cabins was considerably higher than what they thought it would be based, and what they had for a number, you'll see it in these two reports. One proposal here for Scott County, they assumed we'd be close to that. That was over 116,000. But there's been increases, and maybe Jeff can address how lumber's went up. So what they're doing, or what they're not doing, what they're talking about, a possible proposal to take one of the four and make it smaller, get the money down in the budget for these cabins. So I'll pass these along to you to review. The other thing we had was they're working towards that playground equipment that he talked about, and it looks like they're gonna have some help on cash flow on that. There's some people, it looks like there might be some grants, gonna work with them and help them on that. But I can't really say any more about it until we see if they get it. And then this is just a current little mapping of the proposed driving areas that they are gonna be working on, and if so, that'll be a big project to add additional space there for your overlay and so forth. That's all I had on conservation.
Bob, was that, are they gonna do that drive this year yet?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think there'll be time to do that. They've got, as you know, just not only from this presentation, but when they was before the board, they've got a lot going on. I mean, a lot of work, a lot of projects, a lot of information to gather yet, and they're gonna spend a lot of money. And it's not all gonna come from just their budget and our county board. There, it looks like they're gonna get some help from in the community. There's been some outreach. And so it's pretty exciting stuff, and there's a lot going on with that.
Hey, Bob, was
Yes.
there any discussion on that cabin that they wanted to downsize? Instead of downsizing and not building what they want, couldn't they roll some of that money over into the next budget cycle until they're at a place where they can build what they want?
I would say that that's, well, it's still a possibility. The thing that might make that difficult, though, is simply the number of projects that they've already began, that they've started, got work going on, and, you know, you don't know where the money's gonna fall on all that. So they're kind of looking at options, is what they're doing. I mean, they're still working on programs for the new trail that we've got that goes down the Deep Lakes, then they got building going on down there, and they got out at Discovery, there's a lot going on. That playground equipment they're talking, I know he spoke to someone that might work with them on cash flowing that thing. And, you know, as soon as he mentioned to this person, you know, it was over $100,000, you know, a little over what they're looking at, they said, oh, you won't touch it for that. You're gonna need at least 150. And so, and they were like maybe willing to look at that amount. So, and these people know that we're making the offer, they know about it because they've dealt with this type of project before. So, in answer to your question, I think it's viable, but it's gonna be a high degree of difficulty based on the number of projects and not knowing how everything's gonna totally be funded.
Yeah. I just know that if you build something that you're not happy with, you're not ever gonna be happy with it, and it costs a lot more to expand it.
Oh, yeah, well, their discussion along that line was basically that it might be a good idea to have a smaller occupancy cabin, because there's a lot of people that might wanna rent just a couple, just wanna go in. And they still plan on having a porch on it, et cetera, et cetera. They look at other parks and see what they're doing too. In fact, if there's any concern by me as being on that board, my concern is water. Because until we get something done maybe on the Port Authority or Muscatine Power Water, something as far as getting sewer and water lines through there, there's huge limitations on occupancy because of water. So, as I said, you need to make sure you check into all those things.
Yeah, were they looking, if I remember right, they're looking at 4 cabins?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were all the same, of which, I think there's diagrams in there of the layout of the 4 cabins they initially talked about.
With the size of the cash outlay, would it make more sense just to build 3?
Maybe.
Maybe?
They're what, 14?
They're looking at
14,000 over budget
at least,
each cabin.
at least,
Like one
because they're not giving, I don't want to say too much, but, you know, they're not getting maybe the kind of cut from the company that Scott County does, because that company is in Scott County. So they give an extra 5% break. So, you know, there's all that kind of politics with it. But, I did make a suggestion, you know, maybe they could, if necessary, they can also reach out and try to get some bids from other people too. They come back and say, well, would you like to work on that negotiation? That's like good. You know, so there's all kinds of possibilities.
How many of them they build for?
Well, their goal was to do 4 this first time around.
Those are big, 1,200 square foot cabin.
Yeah. Well, the thing that is, I go back to the water issue again too, because you gotta be careful of the occupancy part, because by code and law, you could, with the type of system they're gonna put in, it has to only service so many people. You know, they had no control over that, and so they have to really think about that, how they want to reconfigure or.
And this does not include the foundation, right?
I didn't see it there. And you know, that area just east of, real close, east of where they are putting the cabins, they're gonna have to build that all up, because that was some wet area. You get the fluctuation in the gravel beds.
It seems like having a 2 or however many person cabin would have been a good idea to get a little romantic getaway or something like that.
I'll tell you, they've got a good board, and they'll work their way through this. And I just toss out things I want them to think about, because eventually there'll be some funding from us, so.
Well, the next
That's
thing.
already decided.
The nice thing about it, there's a lot of parks and state parks and what have you that are already in this environment, and they'll be able to do the research and find out.
Oh, and there's plans on
That's
going
awesome.
again and
Yeah.
looking at some other parts.
I love what they're doing. I mean, it's gonna be, that was a nice addition to the county.
Yeah, there's a lot going on down there. Okay, so any more questions on that? If I can answer them, I will. Otherwise, I'll move on to Tuesday, and I have Veterans Affairs. And we're gonna lose another director there. Individuals moving out of state. So now they're looking for 2, basically. Because I don't think we've ever replaced George. Who replaced George?
I can't tell you that off the top of my
Oh,
head.
that might have been,
But it's full right now.
okay, then we're just down one again.
Who's leaving?
Roger. Yeah, they've had their opportunity to move to a location in this country that they've been wanting to move to, and everything just happened just right, and so I think they're gonna enjoy their older years out west. That's what they're doing. And then Thursday, I had the Emergency Management Commission. We had put together a group of 5 that were looking at, we went through all the resumes that we received in to replace the director of emergency management, and we processed through those. I think there was like 15 or 16 maybe, something like that, and took it to a more workable number. Now we'll bring those in for review, and I don't know how soon those will be set back. I hadn't heard, we're looking at reviews soon, but we have to wait till we hear back from candidates. So we're moving, and
Feel like you
we'll
have
see
a
where we
good
go with
crop
that.
of candidates?
Say what?
You feel like you have a good crop of candidates?
I hope so. It's a tough call, because until you can sit down with them and see them eye to eye, at least that's how I function. And on paper, some of them look pretty good. And so we'll see how they respond to questions. And some of them, I was a little disappointed in some of the candidates. They had very, very little detail to give us any idea, you know, of where they've been and what they've done. It's just too bad. But we've got something to look at. We've got our 5 that we're gonna start with, and see where that goes. It's like any process, we've all been through it. If it doesn't work well, can't find somebody, then we'll put it out again. That's all I had this past week.
All right, very good, thank you. Next is receive information from county employees. Any employee have anything to add? If there's nothing else to come before the board, meeting adjourned.